You guys seem to really love my video on 50 different kinds of jabs, and asked for more. So without further ado, here's 17 different kinds of lead hook punches, with examples of the legendary fighters who used them. They're listed from standard to unusual to downright insane by the end of the video, so hopefully you can find at least one new shiny weapon to add to your arsenal. First up is the basic horizontal fist hook. With your own thumb facing towards you, it provides strong support, and if you turn the fist over at the very end upon impact, it can cause further damage. Here's the late great brown bomber Joe Louis providing a textbook example. Next is the vertical fist hook. Honestly, more pros might use this than the horizontal fist. Some claim it hits harder or it's better on the shoulder. But the major benefit is sometimes it's easier to sneak it through the cracks in the opponent's guard. Heavyweight champion and human bulldozer Rocky Marciano threw his hook this way. Number 3 is the corkscrew hook, famously thrown by hard-punching powerhouse Triple G. You can think of this as a downward hook or a lead overhand or whatever floats your boat. But the point is that it turns over and shears downwards. It works really well if your opponent has their opposite foot forward to yours, because it could curve over the opponent's lead shoulder. Here's Pac-Man demonstrating that concept to the pound-for-pound monster Naoya Inoue. Up next is the shovel hook, or 45 hook or slingshot hook or upper hook, whatever name you prefer. The movement is halfway between a hook and an uppercut, and is the favorite of the man we just mentioned. Pound for pound best, Naoya Inoue. It's usually thrown to the liver, with Dempsey suggesting you move your hips like you are digging a hole with a shovel. But it can be thrown to the jaw as well, as seen in our next example. This list would not be complete without the smash, thrown by Donovan Razor Ruddock. The load-up motion is kind of reminiscent to single-handedly loading a shotgun, and that's a great metaphor when you look at Ruddock's insane knockouts. Razor dropped his arm, then bent it, then straightened it again, and sometimes bent it again after that. This is in effect a more complicated shovel hook, as it can connect at any which angle. It's risky, but confuses the hell out of opponents, because they have no idea what's coming or when. This next hook is thrown by Alex Pereira and Floyd Patterson. So as such, I'll just call it the Peekaboo hook. The elbow is kept tight to the side of the ribs until the very last moment. The last second turnover makes it incredibly fast and very hard to see coming. Great for high-speed combinations. Number 7 is the wind-up hook, used by Big George Forman. The wind-up makes it very hard to tell if it's going to the head or the body. Best used in tandem with more traditional hooks, as the big motion can add power but also leaves you wide open. Next is the hammer hook, used by the greatest, Muhammad Ali. It hits with the bottom of the hand. Ali threw it like a karate chop, perhaps because he suffered from hand injuries, or maybe because it helped him sneak the shot through tricky guards like Frazier's. Next is the check hook, used by Floyd Mayweather to KO Ricky Hatton. You step offline as the opponent charges in, keeping you safe and setting up the angle to circumvent their guard. Number 10 is the straight arm hook, where the arm is kept extended from near the start of the movement. Used by knockout king Wilfredo Gomez, who once went 32 wins, 0 losses, and 32 KOs. Keep in mind that this blatant hook only worked because he paired it with a half jab, which was covered in my 50 jabs video. Next is Roy Jones Jr.'s dive bomb. Jones would condition opponents to expect a rear hook. Then he would flare his rear arm, but throw his lead arm instead. Focused on his rear hand, the opponents often never saw the hook coming. I would not recommend flailing both your arms out like Wolverine unless you have the reflexes and speed of a prime Roy Jones Jr. And if you do, make sure to give me a shout out when you're champ in a few years. Speaking of Jones, Joe Calzaghe beat him and did it using palm hooks. Although his detractors would call them slap hooks, they are lightning fast, and can connect from much tighter angles. Ali used them as well, maybe to protect his hands, and maybe not. Now let's take a look at the center hook, used by Oscar Valdez and Joe Frazier. Just because a hook moves sideways doesn't mean it needs to hit the opponent's side. It can sneak in between their guard as well. With the right alignment and striking path, you can get power punches to connect almost anywhere you want them to. And sneaking a hook inside of the opponent's cover block has a jarring effect on them. Often paired with an outside slip, which is a pretty unique hook setup all on its own. Up next is Mayweather's 3-beat hook. Sorry he's on here twice, but the guy had a super unusual style that worked, so it's gonna happen. Mayweather liked to disguise his jabs and give a different look by changing his lower guard position. These preparations would come to signal to the opponent a jab may be incoming. So at times, Mayweather would instead throw a hook, first raising his hand, then dropping it low again, then arcing it around to finish the motion. Basically, he had a built-in feint that let the rest of the punch be super telegraphic. Moving on. The Gazelle hook, used by Joe Frazier to knock down Muhammad Ali, is a thing of beauty. Usually combined with the weave, this punch lets you shuffle into your hook. Tyson also loved it, so did Patterson, and so did Rocky Marciano. I'm almost done editing and remembered this insanely brilliant tactic used by Inoue. If you trained yourself, you've most likely experienced one of your punches running into an opponent's punch, and it may have thrown one or both of you off balance. Inoue's coach turned this into a legitimate technique, counting on the lead hook to alter the course of the opponent's cross and stifle any return fire, after which Inoue could drive them into another punch. With slightly different timing, it just turns into a fadeaway counter. A hyper-advanced tactic is the shift back hook, used by Valdez, Pereira, and especially James Toney. If you'd like to learn more about the complex footwork to set this up, you can check out my book Footwork Wins Fights, link below. Last is the turn shift hook, used by marvelous Marvin Hagler. Rather than pivot with his opponent to stay aligned in his preferred southpaw stance, Hagler would simply turn into orthodox and throw hooks from there, cutting a lot of time off of his attack. If you like this video, I have hundreds more on boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, and MMA, so click on those playlists coming up now and get studying. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.